Welcome back to another cinematic report, where we'll be doing a deep dive into a fracturing alliance. We have fleets with thousands on grid, a capital meeting its demise, and a leader who's revoking structure access. This episode opens with a massive brawl, as the initiative drives its fleets to the very edge of its regions with increased deployments. From there, the focus shifts inward into Synergy of Steel, where power no longer wears armor, it wears authority. Some would call what follows a tyranny. This is the story of an alliance fighting on two fronts. One against external enemies in a growing war with only fleets. Another within itself, as morale fractures, members leave, and the alliance's identity is quietly reshaped into something far more sinister. Because this is not just a battlefield report. It is a warning carved into the collapse of an alliance. A record of power tightening its grip and voices erased, while the war beyond its borders closes in. Inside, obedience became the price of survival. Those who spoke were muted, removed, or stripped of structure access in consequence, leaving a clear message behind. And this leaves us with the burning question: what will happen first? Will they collapse from within, or will they be annihilated at the hands of only fleets? So stick around for the tea, because this is Warlock Industries, providing cinematic battles, semi-reliable reporting, and an unlimited supply of popcorn, straight from the front lines. Implosion of events that have taken place within Synergy of Steel, and a public post that sparked controversy, bearing light on the matter to the public eye. We take a deep dive into what really went down. That's right, we have the tea, we have the details, and most importantly, we have the receipts. Because what good is full ESI to stop spies when you can be fed the whole nervous system of the Alliance through other means? At face value, the fireside was presented as an open forum, a place where line members were told their voices mattered, a discussion on whether the Alliance should move toward full read-only ESI. But leadership framed the event as listening and as gathering input, as if the outcome would be shaped by the people in the room. What followed told a different story. Because when you look beyond the stage and into the message logs, the timelines, and the actions taken before and after, a far more controlled narrative begins to emerge. As the discussion escalated, disagreement was no longer treated as disagreement. It was reframed as disruption. Several members who questioned the direction were placed into timeout and muted on their server. The action was justified as maintaining order. At the same time, leadership openly joked about spies, often about themselves. When line members repeated those same jokes, the tone shifted immediately. They were told it was inappropriate, unhelpful. The response turned cold. The message was subtle, but impossible to miss. Only leadership voices seemed acceptable, while line members were not. For many in attendance, this was the turning point. The fireside stopped feeling like a discussion and started to feel like enforced compliance. Before, during, and after the fireside, consequences were already unfolding outside the public discussion. The post lays out a simple claim. The author left their corporation and informed both Corp and Alliance. Nothing more. Leadership framed that act as betrayal. They accused the author of acting with malice, failing their duties as a director, secretly forming a new corporation, deliberately causing disruption, and dividing both Synergy of Steel and the wider German community. Leaving and saying goodbye publicly was treated as backstabbing. The response was immediate. Their new corporation had docking rights revoked across all coalition structures. Services were cut. Jump bridge access was removed. The ban was labeled temporary, but came with conditions. If additional players left SIN or SCG, the punishment would be extended 1 month per player. But the timeline matters. Full ESI was first pushed at a CEO meeting without a clear plan, without defined endpoints, and without clarity on who would control the data. Despite deep concerns, leadership made it clear the change would move forward, even if it meant losing a significant portion of the alliance. When debate intensified, opposing voices were muted, the fireside discussions escalated, and players left for high-sec. Trust started to erode. The author attempted to delay the fireside, warned leadership directly they would leave if full ESI was implemented, and later submitted an alternative proposal. That proposal received no response. By the time the final ESI concept was released, the outcome was already locked in. Leaving the alliance triggered punishment, remaining silent became safer than speaking, and infrastructure access became leverage. The post ends with a warning, not a rant. This was not about spies, but about control. Regardless of intent, the effect was unmistakable. Disagreement began to carry consequences. What was presented as a choice started to feel binary. Accept the change or leave. For many, it felt less like a decision and more like they were being coerced through fear. Members openly began questioning their future in the Alliance. Since the fireside, more than 100 players have already departed, with entire corporations openly discussing or preparing their exits. One of the primary justifications for full read-only ESI was spy prevention. On the surface, it sounds reasonable, but the fireside itself exposed how fragile that argument truly is. So let's be clear. As everyone says, I am not a spy. And yet I was given access to internal structure layouts, leadership and organizational context, strategic positioning, and decision-making timelines. None of this required ESI. That exposes a core truth about all of this. Spies do not need APIs. They need access, proximity, and trust. Full read-only ESI does not remove the risk. It simply concentrates it. A spy embedded at the highest levels, such as logistics, IT, diplomacy, or leadership, does not need to win a fight. They can decide when the fight is lost. They see where assets are stored. They know exactly where capitals and supercapitals are staged. They understand industrial flow, choke points, and the systems the Alliance cannot function without. And in war, the most lethal weapon is denial. With the power to revoke access at will, a compromised leader never needs to raise their voice. They smile on comms and they joke about spies. Everything sounds normal. Then a CTA is called, and access quietly disappears. Capitals remain trapped, and supers are locked behind permissions that no longer exist. Fleets undock short-handed as timers bleed away without a real fight. In the worst cases, supers undock unaware, only to realize too late that their path to safety has been severed. The damage is silent. Infiltration at this level does not end wars quickly. It rots them from the inside, one decision at a time. After the internal collapse of Pandemic Horde, pilots scattered across New Eden. Some vanished into obscurity. Others rose quietly, slipping into positions of influence. In time, a number of them found their way into Synergy of Steel. Not long after, the Alliance began to change. In Pandemic Horde, the collapse did not arrive in a single moment. It was slow, methodical, and disorienting. The same figures in charge began quietly extracting value from their own members as assets were siphoned upward and doctrines were overpriced. Participation became increasingly expensive, while explanations grew thinner. Members were told it was necessary, while equally left in the dark. By the time many realized what was happening, their assets were already entangled, their options limited, and their trust exhausted. Enemies did not need to break the Alliance. They simply watched as it broke itself. In Synergy of Steel, the parallels feel uncomfortably close. Now back to the topic at hand. Yes, full read ESI has benefits. That was never the real issue. The issue for the members were the blatant disregard for the Alliance's own history, erased by leadership as if it never mattered. Years of trust, culture, and precedent wiped away without hesitation, followed by fear and punishment. This is the reality now facing members of Synergy of Steel, who wish to not leave their history behind. Speak up and risk losing safety. Question leadership and risk being cut off. Compliance is expected as fear enforces it, and the irony is impossible to ignore. While leadership claims tighter control will bring security, their own alliance stands exposed from its own members of power. Infrastructure layouts are known. Capital and supercapital staging is visible. Doctrine stockpiles are tracked, and industrial flow is understood. All of it funnels upward, through the same hands that sit above the line members. The question is no longer what is exposed, but who is exposing. And when an alliance governs through fear while its vulnerabilities remain fully visible, the danger is no longer theoretical. It is already bleeding from the inside. Even those who believe they are safe while crabbing are not. Assets left in open space are known, watched, and waiting to be acted upon by the very same people you trusted.